What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today I am very excited to talk about a new deck list that we have coming at you. You may have seen the recent bans of Hiram Flaversham and Fortisphere. I didn't feel the need to make a special video on it because generally everybody who does Lorcana content on YouTube gets around to doing that pretty quickly, and I just don't always have that kind of turnaround. And you know, what am I going to add to the conversation that 10 other creators aren't saying already? But long story short, Hiram is out, Fortisphere is out. I personally am fine with it. I had literally just sleeved 2 Sapphire decks that I was planning on playing, and John was playing this weekend, and it turns out that's not going to happen. But I did pivot some things and have been kind of messing around with what it could look like for blue going forward and what could be some new interesting card combinations that we could be using. And I'm really excited to talk about the Sapphire Emerald deck that we're going to be talking about today. But before we jump into that, as always, big shout out to the Patreons for making the giveaways on the channel possible. We're just a couple hundred subscribers away from hitting 3,000 and another big giveaway. So if you want to push that giveaway to happening even sooner, slap that subscribe button and help us get there, win some free stuff. Without any further ado, let's talk about this $35 Emerald Sapphire deck that is stomping the meta. This deck just keeps winning. So the first and only card in the 1-drop slot is going to be 4-Kit Cloudkicker Spunky Bear Cub, a 1-cost inkable 0/1 character questing for 1 with ward. Typically you're not going to want to be questing with this character. You're just going to get him down and have him kind of sit there. He is going to hopefully come down on 1. If he doesn't come down on 1 though, it's okay. You're more concerned about hitting your turn 2 plays with this deck. So you've got a couple different ones depending on the matchup. The first of those is Ursula Deceiver, a 2-cost inkable 1/3 stat line questing for 1. With when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. So obviously fantastic in the current meta. Lots of people playing songs still. When Ursula first came out, people steered away from songs like crazy. They're like, oh no, Ursula. Now people don't really care as much. People are going to play songs. They're not expecting every deck to have Ursulas in them. Sometimes they do. You know, it's a kind of rock, paper, scissors of the game. So lots of good targets for Ursula. She is a fantastic follow-up to Kit Cloudkicker on 1 in those aggro matchups. If you're not in an aggro matchup and you don't have the Kit Cloudkicker on 1, probably your best bet is going to be the next card we're talking about, just to push that ramp early and try to get to some of those high cards that are going to stomp aggro, and that is going to be Tipo Growing Sun, a 2-cost inkable 1/2 stat line questing for 1. With when you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. Always worth noting, and I know I mentioned this, I probably sound like a broken record to the people who are watching all of the Sapphire videos, but if you're new to the channel, always worth mentioning, Tipo is going to let you ink uninkables with the way that he is worded. You also don't have to reveal it, so keep that in mind when you are inking an extra card with Tipo. He's going to push you up to that 4 ink on turn 3 of the game. Another card that is going to do that, and our backup, our alternative to Tipo, is going to be 4 Sail the Azurite Sea, a 2-cost inkable action. This turn you may put an additional card from your hand into your inkwell face down. This time it's not exerted, so you can use it the turn that it comes into play. However, because it is letting you ink an additional time essentially, as opposed to the way that Tipo is worded, it is going to require that card to be an inkable. So keep that in mind when you're playing this card. If you don't have a good secondary inkable in your hand to be inking for that second ink of the turn, keep in mind you're not guaranteed off that 1 card draw to hit 1, so don't necessarily play this card when you're digging for something to ink. You want to have a potential ink target for this before you play it. Next up, we are on 2 Heffalumps and Woozles, a 2-cost inkable action song. Chosen opposing character can't quest during their next turn and you draw a card, so it replaces itself. It's just kind of letting you further filter through the deck. But if you're in that super heavy aggro matchup and you get one of those 2-cost guys down early, you can go ahead and sing this on 3 with those 2-cost characters to be able to prevent one of those characters from questing in. Obviously, with Daisy Ducks, it is not as favorable for you to let them quest in this deck, so that's a great target for Heffalumps and Woozles. A lot of decks, you want to let Daisy quest and draw you additional cards. This deck is not playing enough characters to expect that to happen. You're more likely to hit a non-character off the top deck. Speaking of non-characters, still in the 2-drop slot, we are on 4 Sudden Chill, a 2-cost inkable action song. Each opponent chooses and discards a card. So With this, it is singable by those 2-drop characters. It's not necessarily a card you're looking to sing onto. It's not even necessarily a card you're potentially looking to sing. You may very well, with the ink ramp in this deck, just end up hard casting this because it only costs 2, but it is going to be a great combo piece with some of the other stuff we're doing with the deck. Next up, we have 4 Sapphire Coil, a 2-cost inkable item. I've heard a lot of people talking about this card now, especially since the Hiram bans, is saying that it should have been uninkable, it should have been a 3-cost item. That would have made this card more balanced, would have made things less crazy for Ruby Sapphire. It's probably true. 2-cost inkable for this card with what its ability is crazy. It has the ability Brilliant Shine during your turn. Whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may give chosen character -2 strength this turn. Obviously going to bring them further into range of those Sisus and Brawls and all that stuff in the Ruby matchup. For this deck, it's bringing them into range of some of the other cards that we're playing, but we'll talk about those more as we go. Next up in the 3-cost slot, one of our primary card draw options with this deck is going to be 3 Prince John, Greediest of All, a 3-cost uninkable 1/2 stat line questing for 2. Also with Ward, you may sense a theme here with this deck, and whenever your opponent discards one or more cards, you may draw a card for each card discarded. So great way to get some cards in your hand. You may have noticed I'm not playing the 1-drop Clarabelle. No, this Emerald list is not playing the big Clarabelle, hence it being $35. I did not make that choice from a budgetary perspective. I built this deck the absolute best that I thought it could be. It just happened to be a very cheap deck. Next up, to take advantage of those Sapphire Coils, especially on curve, which is nice, we have 3 Kit Cloud Kicker Tough Guy, a 3-cost inkable 2/2 stat line questing for 1. With when you play this character, you may return chosen opposing character with 2 strength or less to the player's hand. Obviously, on turn 2, if you throw down a Sapphire Coil, on turn 3, you got to ink before you play this. So you ink, you give something -2, and then you can Kit Cloud Kicker it back into your opponent's hand if that is the relevant play. You can even hit something like a Lawrence and put it back in your opponent's hand. Kind of funny. Obviously, if it has damage on it, don't do that. You may have noticed we're not playing a ton of 3-drops in this deck. A lot of times with blue, you want to kind of skip over your turn 3, so even the 3-drops we are playing aren't necessarily intended to be played on turn 3 in every matchup. Mainly what you're looking to do is hit that extra ink, and on turn 3, play a 4-drop, and a great option for that is going to be the Muses, Proclaimers of Heroes, a 4-cost inkable 2/4 stat line questing for 1. Has Ward, go figure, another Ward character, and whenever you play a song, you may return chosen character with 2 strength or less to their player's hand, so this is also going to let you get those characters back in your opponent's hand. Fantastic combination with Sapphire Coil. Obviously, if you're inking, you'll be able to target characters up to 4 strength with the Muse's ability when you sing a song. Our other 4-drop character, since Hiram went bye-bye, is going to be 4 Grandma Tala, Keeper of Ancient Secrets, a 4-cost inkable 3/3 stat line questing for 1. With when you play this character, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may put 1 into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Keep in mind, you don't have to put that 1 into your hand, but obviously you want to. You always want to get the card draw out of this. That's why the card is worded. You can put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you choose not to take the 1, obviously the rest would be more than 1. But in any case, you get to draw a card essentially, and you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, so it's another great way to filter through your deck. This deck is a lot less aggressive on the card draw. It can get some card draw mechanics going pretty smooth and draw cards very nicely as the game progresses, but it's a little slow going. Obviously, without Pop Hiram, the card draw is a little muted, but you know, if you play the deck effectively, you don't have to worry about that. And I always like to point out to people, when you're playing a kind of discard strategy, that is also card advantage. So if you're making your opponent discard and you're gaining card advantage that way, you don't necessarily need to be drawing as many cards. And then we have our last card in the 4-cost slot, which is going to be for How Far I'll Go, a 4-cost uninkable action song. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand and the other into your inkwell face down and exerted. So a fantastic ramp option. Obviously, it's great with those Sapphire Coils to get an additional ink into your inkwell, or when you're in the instance where you're far enough into the game that you're not even really necessarily looking to ink anymore unless you absolutely have to. This is a fantastic way to trigger that Sapphire Coil, because it's like you have to put a card into your inkwell with this anyway. So you're going to get that Sapphire Coil trigger. So rather than inking something that you may want to keep, you can play something like How Far I'll Go ink the card that's coming off of that, trigger the Sapphire Coil's ability. And it's important to note that both of those triggers go into the bag at the same time. With How Far I'll Go, the Muses, Sapphire Coil, all that stuff is going in the bag at the same time, and you get to choose how things resolve. So you can go ahead and play the How Far I'll Go, you can ink off of it, and then once you ink, you can trigger the Sapphire Coil to give a character -2, and then take the Muses ability out of the bag to bounce that character back to your opponent's hand, which is pretty neat. Next up, we have 2 Lucifer Cunning Cat, a 5-cost uninkable 2/2 stat line, questing for 2. With when you play this character, each opponent chooses and discards either 2 cards or 1 action card. Definitely a lot of decks out there playing action cards, but if you're sniping out their actions, if they're playing songs and you're sniping them out with that Ursula, you can very likely play Lucifer for a value of 2, and especially with some of these greedy Ruby Sapphire decks and other decks that are trying to push down to a couple cards in their hand. You look at like Steel Song, for instance. Sometimes they'll sit with like a whole new world and one other card in their hand for their next turn, so they can play that other card before they sing their whole new world, and then all of a sudden you can go Lucifer, get rid of that whole new world. Now you have that 1 card left and you're not refilling your hand. Now I just got to worry about your board, which you can deal with boards very nicely with this deck. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. The other cool thing about Lucifer, I was originally on 3. I went ahead and cut that down to 2 for the main reason that the Muse's ability doesn't only target opposing characters. You could sing a song or play a song and bounce Lucifer back to your hand if that's the relevant play, and then play Lucifer again. Next up in the 5-cost slot, we're on 2 Let It Go, a 5-cost inkable action song. Put chosen character into their player's inkwell face down and exerted. Obviously, this is great for dealing with those big threats. You get into that Chernadog matchup and they're able to get the Chernabog down on the board. The Let It Go is fantastic into that. It's fantastic into those big Tamatoa So Shinies, great into Maui Shark, any of those big threats that we're seeing in the meta right now. Let It Go is going to be your primary answer. So definitely don't just ink these right away if you're in any matchup that's not aggro. If you're playing a matchup where your opponent's going to have those high roll characters, hang on to a Let It Go. Don't throw it in the inkwell. Next up, we have 2 We Don't Talk About Bruno, a 5-cost inkable action song yet again. This one is going to return chosen character to their player's hand. Then that player discards a card at random, which is fantastic because they're not going to know which card they're discarding. Ideally, you play We Don't Talk About Bruno when they have no cards in their hand anymore, and then you're bouncing a character back to their hand and immediately discarding it. It can almost work similar to the Let It Go in that it can, if they have no cards in their hand, it is that kind of direct removal for a large scale character. And it can be sung with several of our characters in the deck. Speaking of our characters that can sing things and are fantastic in the Steel Song matchup, we have 4 Kit Cloud Kicker Navigator, a 6-cost inkable 2/5 stat line, questing for 3. Fantastic. Shifting for 3. Also fantastic, and has ward. So when it comes down, it is not going to be able to be targeted by any actions or abilities, which is going to be fantastic for you by your opponent. You can target it with your own actions or abilities, which is not irrelevant because, as you may have noticed, it is a 2-strength character. So again, if this character has some damage on him or you just want to get him readied up again, you can bounce him back to your hand with Muses and replay him down to the board. Also a fantastic play line into those aggro decks. You go turn 1, 1-drop Kit Cloud Kicker. They can't do anything about it because it has ward. Turn 2, you get down that Ursula. If they have any removal songs in their hand that they are going to potentially be able to play to deal with your Ursula, you go ahead and snipe that out with the Ursula. If they don't have any removal songs and you're in that Steel Song matchup and they have like Whole New World, snipe that out with that Ursula. Then turn 3, and I'm not saying you want to do this unless their opening is like Daisy, 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 but turn 3, you could shift Kit Cloud Kicker and you could sing, we'll just talk about it now because I think it's relevant now. You could shift Kit Cloud Kicker and you could sing Under the Sea as early as turn 3 of the game, and there's almost nothing your opponent can do about it short of either getting a Cinderella down on 1 and singing Bare Necessities, or hard casting Bare Necessities on 2 to pull this card out of your hand. Literally nothing else they can do about it. They would have to hard cast a Strength of the Raging Fire to remove the Ursula, so there's maybe that argument if they went turn 1 1-drop, turn 2 2 1-drops, and then turn 3 Strength the Ursula to prevent the singing of Under the Sea, but they would have to be really accurately predicting the things that your deck is trying to do. But Kit Cloud Kicker, fantastic way to greatest thing. Really good, like I mentioned in those Steel Song matchups, because they can't target him with removal. A lot of their characters in Steel Song are fairly weak, so they're not going to want to challenge into him. Even though 2 strength is not going to banish their characters in most instances, they are probably going to have to challenge with multiple characters into him to be able to take him off of the board, and especially since they can't target him with their songs. And so if they choose not to do that, then you're threatening questing for 3 multiple times, which they're probably not going to want to let you do. Last character in the 6-drop slot, we are on 3 Baymax Giant Robot, a 6-cost uninkable 5/5 stat line questing for 2 with Universal Shift 4. This was a new introduction in this set that is going to be able to shift on any character in the game, so it doesn't matter what the character is. And when you play this character, if you use shift to play him, remove all damage from him. So if you shifted him down on a character that has damage on them, you're going to get to remove that damage. So he's always going to come in as a healed up 5/5, which is fantastic. And he is another 6-cost character, so he is going to potentially be a relevant option to be singing that Under the Sea as well, and any of those other songs in the deck, because they're all going to cost 5 or less. Also, obviously a great challenger, great way to insulate Tipo. You go Tipo on turn 2, you can shift him into a Baymax on turn 3 and have a very aggressive opening to the game. And of course, the last card in the deck, we are on 3 Under the Sea. Not something you see every day, but I think this deck really wants to have 3 in it. It's not a 2 Under the Sea kind of deck, but this is an 8-cost uninkable action song with Sing Together 8, a mechanic we have not seen brought back since set 4, where multiple characters can work together, and as long as their cost total is equal to 8, they can sing this card together. So that's why I mentioned Ursula on 2, shift the kid on 3, and then you have a 6 cost and a 2 cost down equals 8. You can sing this card with it. Put all opposing characters with 2 strength or less on the bottom of their player's deck in any order. Obviously with Sapphire Coil, you can potentially reduce the strength of any characters that do have more than 2 strength down to 2 strength or less, hopefully, and then Under the Sea, and potentially wipe your opponent's entire board. Another really cool thing about Under the Sea in the current meta is a lot of people have started playing Chernadog. Chernadog has become a super popular deck, which is really cool. I like to think I helped bring that to the forefront. I definitely am the one who came up with the name Chernadog, so if nothing else, I added that to the conversation, which is kind of neat to see so many people talking about it. But Under the Sea is going to put all those cards on the bottom of your opponent's deck, so they are not going to get that value of them going into their discard pile to be able to play that Chernabog on you even easier. So Under the Sea, super good in that matchup, very good against Steel Song and any of those other low to the ground aggro decks, especially because you can sing it so early with this deck. What do you guys think? Do you think this is an effective $37 deck? Do you think it could beat the decks in the current meta? Do you think I made some mistakes with the list and maybe other alternative cards would be better than certain things I'm playing? Is there anything you wouldn't play or you think should be in the list? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I think about a third of the people who are watching multiple videos are subscribed, so what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button, jump in on the conversation, talk to me in the comments below. And when you see those toys, video games, and shiny Grandma Talas off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.